My college roommate turned founder mocked me at his rooftop birthday. Damien's just here for the free drinks after I covered $28,000 of his bills. I left my handmade gift on the bar and walked out. Not a word. It started with a laugh that cut through the night like glass. My name is Damien. I'm 29 years old. I live in Oakland, California, and I work as a junior architect at a small firm that mostly designs eco-friendly cafes and affordable housing, which sounds noble until you realize I can barely afford my own rent. I didn't want to go to that party. I knew I'd feel out of place. But when Jax texted me 3 times in a row, "You better be there. Bro, wouldn't feel right without you," I gave in. Maybe part of me still wanted to believe we were close, like we used to be. The party was on a rooftop in downtown San Francisco. Glass railing, string lights, open bar, live DJ, the whole startup fantasy. I showed up in a button-down I ironed twice and a brown paper bag in my hands. Inside was a framed, handmade sketch of the two of us from college, the night we pulled an all-nighter building his first pitch deck, and I stayed up drawing while he rambled about changing the world. When I got to the top floor, I spotted Jax surrounded by friends. He was in white linen and gold-rimmed sunglasses at night. He looked like some kind of influencer mug. I waited until he wasn't talking, then stepped forward and held out the gift. He took the bag, peeked inside, and laughed. "Damn," he said, loud enough to make people turn. "You really showed up with homework?" Laughter. I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, he added, "Let's be real, Damien's just here for the free drinks." More laughter. Bigger this time. The kind that makes your stomach turn. I stood there holding my beer, not saying a word. No one defended me. Not Mila, not Ryan, not even Taylor, who used to crash on my couch when she was going through her divorce. They just smiled awkwardly and looked away. That gift had taken me 3 weeks to finish, a tiny sliver of time I had between client drafts and rejection emails. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat closed up. I could feel the sweat under my arms and the shame burning in my face. I felt small in a way I hadn't since middle school, back when my mom dropped me off at school in a busted Camry and everyone else's parents drove Teslas. What none of them knew, what Jax didn't know I'd ever say, was that he wouldn't even be here if it weren't for me. I had covered his rent for 11 months, paid his credit card bill, bought him groceries and headphones and Uber rides so he could pitch investors while claiming he was bootstrapping with integrity. I looked down at the gift, then walked over to the bar table, placed it down gently, and left. No words, just silence. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest thing you can give someone who's already taken too much. I didn't answer the first call, or the second. By the time Jax texted, "Yo man, sorry if that came off wrong. Can we talk?" My phone was already face down on my kitchen table, buried under unopened mail and a couple of takeout containers I hadn't touched. The knock at my door came 36 hours later. I sat on my couch and didn't move, just stared at the wall while the knocking got louder, then stopped. That's when it all started unraveling in my head. The first time Jax asked for money was almost a year ago. He had just quit his job at a mid-tier wellness company and pitched me his new vision, a mental health app with soul. He made it sound like he was doing the world a favor by walking away from salary and stability. "I'm not asking for a handout," he said. "Just a little help while I figure things out. You know I do the same for you." That part stuck with me. You know I do the same for you. We've been roommates in college, shared a dorm, then an apartment. He was always the loud one, the charming one. I was the guy who kept the lights on and made sure the rent got paid on time, even back then. So yeah, I helped. It started as a couple $100. Then it turned into weekly transfers, rent, groceries, his share of the utilities. He'd always say, "Just until the launch," or "This is the last one, I swear." But the app never launched. Or if it did, it was just a beta link he'd post on Instagram to make it look legit. Meanwhile, I was skipping happy hours with coworkers, canceling my gym membership, and biking to work on a frame held together by duct tape. I'd scroll through his Instagram stories at night, smoothies in mason jars, yoga by the ocean, unboxing videos for brand partnerships that looked suspiciously unpaid. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sent more money. Because deep down, I kept thinking, maybe I owe him. Maybe I owed him for all those nights in college when I spiraled and he pulled me back. For the time he bailed me out after I got blackout drunk the night my dad left. For being the only person who ever made me feel seen when I was too quiet to get noticed. We used to say, "Always got your back." That was our thing. So I told myself this was just part of it. Loyalty, brotherhood. But looking back, I see what it really was. Survivor's guilt. He was spiraling now, not me. And I thought if I just held him up long enough, he'd make it out. He'd shine again. And I could say I helped. That's the lie I lived in for 11 months. And the worst part? He still doesn't know I stopped eating breakfast so he could keep ordering organic blueberries delivered to his door. It was a Thursday night, 6 weeks before the party, when he asked for $2,000. I was eating cereal for dinner, not because I liked it, but because it was the only thing left in my pantry. I had just paid my rent 3 days late and turned down a colleague's invite to a weekend hiking trip because I couldn't afford the gas. My inbox was full of bills. My fridge was mostly air. Then Jax called. "Bro, I hate asking," he said, already slipping into that syrupy voice he used when he wanted something. "But I'm about to get evicted. My landlord's being a total dick. If I don't come up with $2,000 by Friday, I'm out." I didn't say anything right away. "Look," he added, "I know it's a lot, but I swear, this is the last time. We're relaunching next month, got a new dev, new pitch deck. This is the hump. After this, we're golden. Golden. That word did something to me. Still, I transferred the money. I told myself he was scared. I told myself I couldn't let him fall. I told myself we were still those same kids who used to split $5 pizza and crash on each other's floors. Then the next day, I opened Instagram. Jax was standing barefoot on a boulder, arms outstretched, surrounded by redwoods. The caption said, "Disconnect to reconnect, hashtag forest reset, hashtag founder healing." He tagged a retreat center in Mendocino. I stared at the photo for a full minute, not blinking. Then I screen recorded it. That was the day I started documenting everything. Every Venmo transfer, every bank deposit, every receipt and Cash App note. I dug through 11 months of my finances and highlighted every time his name showed up. The total? $28,672.94. I remember sitting back in my chair, numb. That was more than a down payment on a car, more than my student loan balance, more than enough to move to a better apartment, fix my bike, buy groceries that didn't come from the clearance shelf, more than I had ever given to anyone in my life. And he used it to sit in the forest and vibe. I stopped sending money after that. Cold turkey. No explanation. No warning. A week later, he posted a cryptic story. A black screen with white text that said, "Sometimes the people you think are your safety net are just waiting to watch you fall." I didn't respond. I didn't even open it. That was the beginning of the end. He must have known something shifted. He started texting less, sending shorter messages. The voice note stopped. He tried to joke like nothing changed, but I could feel the tension under every word. Still, I kept quiet, because by then, I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. Angry at how blind I'd been. Angry that he turned my kindness into his credit line. Angry that I let him. I stared at that forest photo a dozen times after that. He looked peaceful. Must be easy to find inner peace when someone else is paying the bill. The birthday invite came through email, not a text, not a call, just a fancy digital card with fake confetti and cursive that read, "You're invited to celebrate Jax's 30th. I almost deleted it, but then I saw the note at the bottom. "Damien, it'd mean everything if you came. Wouldn't be the same without you." That line messed me up, because even after everything, the lies, the guilt trips, the forest retreat, part of me still wanted to believe there was something real left between us. Some part of the old friendship buried under all the bullshit. So I said yes. I bought a new shirt, the kind I normally wouldn't spend money on. I even ironed it, twice. I skipped lunch that day to afford a bottle of decent whiskey and wrapped it in brown paper. And I brought the sketch I had drawn months earlier. The two of us sitting on the fire escape in college, him holding a laptop, me holding a pencil. A moment we used to joke about like it was our origin story. I didn't go to impress anyone. I went because, deep down, I still wanted to be seen. Not as a wallet, not as a backup plan, as a friend, as someone who mattered. The rooftop was packed, lights strung above polished concrete, drinks flowing, laughter bouncing off glass walls. Jax was in a silk button-down, hugging everyone like he was running for office. When he saw me, he smiled big and shouted, "Hey, Damien made it." Must have heard there was an open bar. Laughter. It spread like fire. Heads turned. I scanned me like I'd just walked in through the service door. I stood there holding the gift, my stomach twisted. He kept going. "No. But seriously, somebody keep an eye on this one before he starts packing leftovers." More laughter. No one stopped him. Not one of our old friends said a word. Not even Mila, who once cried in my car after a breakup, or Ryan, who borrowed money from me for a security deposit. They just laughed. I didn't say anything. I placed the wrapped sketch on the bar next to the gifts, a sea of high-end bottles, envelopes, and branded tech. Mine looked like a leftover school project in comparison. Then I turned and walked toward the elevator. No scene, no confrontation, just the sound of my footsteps, steady and deliberate. Like every step was peeling away the version of myself that still thought I owed him something. That was the first time in months I chose silence over guilt. And it felt like air after being underwater too long. 36 hours after the rooftop party, he showed up at my apartment. No call this time. No text. Just a knock. Soft. Uncertain. Like he wasn't sure I'd even answer. I almost didn't. But then I thought, no more silence. If he wanted to talk, he was going to hear all of it. I opened the door, but not all the way. Left the chain on. "What do you want?" Jax stood there in a hoodie and joggers like he'd just rolled out of bed. His hair was messy, his eyes red. He looked smaller than he did at the party, like the silk shirt had been armor, and now he was just skin and nerves. "Can I come in?" he asked. I didn't move. "Why?" He swallowed. "I messed up. That joke at the party, it wasn't meant to be mean. I was nervous, trying to be funny. I'm sorry." I looked at him for a long time. "That's what you came here to say?" He shifted. "I didn't think it'd land like that. I was drinking. People were hyped. And I miss how we used to be, man. You know." I took the chain off and let him in, not out of kindness, just so I could say everything without the hallway echoing it. He sat down on the edge of the couch like he didn't know if he was allowed to relax. I stayed standing. "You want to talk?" I said. "Then let's talk." I pulled out the spreadsheet I'd printed, dropped it on the coffee table. His eyes scanned it. His jaw tightened. "What is this?" "Every dollar," I said. "From the first 200 for groceries to the last 2,000 for your rent, which you used on a retreat, by the way. Total? $28,672.94. He stared at the paper. "Damien, come on. You make good money. It's not like you're hurting." That did it. I snapped. You think I'm fine? You think this was easy? I skipped meals. I went without therapy because I couldn't afford the copay. I lied to my landlord to get extensions. I isolated myself from friends because I was ashamed of how broke I was. Also, you could keep pretending to be some visionary in linen pants. He tried to cut in, but I kept going. I didn't help you because I had extra. I helped you because I thought you were drowning. I thought we were still brothers. He looked away, voice soft. We are. No, I said. You had a brother, and you sold him out for likes. He sat there in silence. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. He looked up. That's it. That's all that's left. He got up slowly, walked to the door. Before stepping out, he turned and said, You didn't have to do all that, you know. I nodded. Yeah, and now I won't. Then I closed the door, softly, cleanly, and didn't look back. For the first time in almost a year, my phone stayed quiet. No Cash App requests. No late-night voice notes that started with, Bro, hear me out. No pity memes or half-jokes asking if I could spot him till Friday. Just silence. At first, it felt like standing in an empty room where the walls used to press in. I kept reaching for my phone without meaning to, some muscle memory from all the times he'd texted urgent, and I'd responded before I even finished reading. But now, nothing. It was disorienting. Then, slowly, it started to feel like peace. I booked a therapy session that same week, my first in over 10 months. The copay felt steep, but not impossible. I didn't flinch this time when I entered my card. I started walking again, not to get anywhere, just around the block, past the same cafe I used to skip because even their drip coffee felt like a luxury I couldn't justify. Now I stopped in, got a small cup, sat outside and drank it slow. I cooked it too. Nothing fancy, just real food, not cup noodles or frozen burritos. I chopped vegetables. I listened to music. I let myself breathe. The apartment felt different, bigger, not physically, but uncluttered. The way you forget how much noise someone can bring until it's gone. I even slept through the night. No guilt knocking around in my head. No anxiety about the next ask. No mental math trying to figure out how to stretch one paycheck across 2 lives. Just stillness. One morning, I stood in my kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug, and realized I hadn't thought about Jax in hours. And when I did, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I didn't even feel betrayed. I felt weightless. That was the word that came to me. Not healed, not whole, just weightless. And I thought I was never his lifeline. I was just the rope he knew would never snap. But it finally did. And now, in the quiet, I was learning how to listen to something else. Me. The first post was vague. A black square. White text. Some people only show up when it benefits them. I didn't have to guess who it was about. Jax had a signature style. Dramatic, passive-aggressive, and always just cryptic enough to deny it was personal. The next day, it was a photo of him wiping tears from his eyes, sitting cross-legged with incense burning behind him. Healing in progress. Please respect the journey. Then came the flood. Inspirational quotes, lonely skyline shots, videos of him sipping tea with captions like, When silence replaces connection, truth begins to speak. And then the text started again. I miss how we used to be. Can we please just talk? I never meant to hurt you. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have things to say. I did. I had whole paragraphs of things I drafted in my head while brushing my teeth or walking home from work. But every version ended the same way. More mess, more excuses, more of him twisting my words into guilt. So I said nothing. He didn't take that well. The stories turned bitter. It's wild how people pretend they're victims after draining you for years. When you help someone for so long, they start to believe they deserve it. Then came the kicker. Jax's mom, a woman I hadn't seen in person since college, left a comment on a mutual friend's photo from the party. Sad how some people forget where they came from. Damien always struck me as ungrateful. Ungrateful. That word stuck in my chest like a splinter. She had no idea what I'd done. None of them did. As far as they knew, I was just a sulky guest who couldn't take a joke. But I didn't respond to her either. I let the post sit. I let the whispers spread. I watched from the sidelines as he tried every trick. Sympathy, shame, shade, nostalgia. Nothing worked, because I didn't move. And in that stillness, something shifted. I realized that for a long time, my silence had been fear of losing the friendship, of being misunderstood, of looking cold. But now it was power. Because every time he reached out, and I didn't bite, I was breaking the script he'd relied on for years. No more explanations. No more defending myself. Let them wonder. Let them twist the story. I wasn't there to fix it anymore. It was a Sunday afternoon when he showed up again. This time, he brought backup. I opened the door to find Jax standing beside his girlfriend, the same one who laughed the hardest at the rooftop joke. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and clutching a designer tote, like she was walking into a brunch spot, not the apartment of the guy they humiliated. Jax looked tired. Not performative tired like in his Instagram stories. Real tired. Hair flat, circles under his eyes. No clever lines ready to go. He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him get far. I'm not inviting you in, I said, keeping the door halfway closed. His girlfriend shifted her weight awkwardly. Can we just talk? It won't take long. I nodded once. Then talk. Jax sighed. Look, we've been going through a lot. The launch failed. My dad's been sick. I don't know, spiraling, I guess. His girlfriend chimed in. It's been rough for both of us. And we know the party was bad. What Jack said, it wasn't okay. I stared at them, saying nothing. He took that as an opening. I was trying to impress people, he said, his voice thin. I thought if I made people laugh, they'd think I was still on top. But it came out wrong. I didn't mean to embarrass you like that. You've always been solid, man. He paused, searching my face for something. A crack, a flicker of forgiveness. He didn't find it. You humiliated me, I said calmly, in front of people I used to call friends, while I stood there holding a gift I made for you, after 11 months of covering your bills. And you laughed. He blinked. His girlfriend looked down at her shoes. I didn't mean it like that. Intent doesn't erase impact. I cut in. And you didn't just hurt me. You erased me. You stood on a rooftop I paid for, surrounded by people who wouldn't have been there without me behind the scenes. And you made me the punchline. I stepped out into the hallway, pushing the door closed behind me, but still holding it halfway. You're not getting another version of me who absorbs it and shrugs it off. That version's gone. Jack swallowed. We were like brothers. You had a brother, I said, voice low, and you sold him out for clout. He looked like he wanted to cry. His girlfriend reached for his arm, but he shook her off and stepped forward like he still had something left to say. I didn't give him the chance. I pulled the door toward me, slowly, gently. No slam, no final word, just a quiet click. Clean. Final. I didn't feel powerful. I felt free, and that was more than enough. I didn't post it to get revenge. I posted it because I needed to understand what the hell had just happened to me. It was a Thursday night. I was sitting on my couch, eating cold rice from a plastic container, when I opened a new tab and typed. I supported my former best friend's startup dreams for 11 months. He mocked me in front of everyone. That became the title. Underneath it, I started writing, not like a writer, not like someone trying to tell a perfect story, just as a guy finally telling the truth. I wrote about the Venmo transfers, the late-night calls, the monthly excuses, and the yoga retreats. I described the rooftop party and the handmade sketch. I described the way his voice sounded when he made the joke, the way no one said anything, the way I left without taking my drink. I didn't name him. I didn't name anyone, but I told the truth. When I hit post, I expected maybe a handful of views, maybe a few pity replies. Instead, it blew up. Hundreds of comments, thousands of upvotes, messages from strangers, people sharing their own stories, their own invisible debts. Some comments were kind, others were brutally honest. One stuck with me. You didn't just give him money. You tried to buy belonging. That one hit like a punch to the ribs. Because it was true. Somewhere along the line, helping him had become a way to keep myself connected, to feel needed, to feel like I mattered, like I was still someone's person. I sat with that comment for a long time. Then I posted a short update. I matter to myself now. That's the only love I'll fund from here on out. After that, I logged out. No follow-ups, no replies, no checking to see if he saw it. I didn't need his reaction. The post wasn't about him anymore. It was about putting a full stop at the end of a story that had been open too long. The next week, I took a new job. Nothing flashy, just a firm that let me design tiny homes for fire evacuees in Northern California. I packed my old sketchbooks. I made real dinners. I deleted the cash apps I didn't use anymore. Jack's never reached out again, but I saw, through a mutual friend, that he posted something a few days after mine went viral. Another vague caption, another video of him crying in his car, saying, some people would rather get likes than talk things out like adults. It didn't sting. It didn't even register. I scrolled past it, made my tea, and opened the window. Outside, the streetlights were humming, soft and gold. Inside, everything was still. And finally, it was mine.